the 13,800 hectares of semi-arid Barkly tablelands that make up the Cammerwell Caves National Park are characterised by open eucalypt woodlands, spinifex, turpentine wattle shrubland and extensive areas of Mitchell grass plains. The park features caves and sinkholes that were formed when water percolated through 550 million-year-old layers of soluble dolomite, creating caverns linked by vertical shafts up to 75 metres deep. The caves are large, twisting sub-horizontal caverns, often railway tunnel dimensions, with vertical connections between levels and vertical access to the surface through collapsed sinkholes or dolines. They were formed by the action of water percolating the overburden and dissolving the fissures in the dolomite underneath. The cave entrances being created when the sinkholes eventually collapsed.
I cannot believe how sharp these rocks are. They're like razors.
The dangerous dreaming will get you?
Waking up from one.
No, it's the serpent. Our outback towns hold many rich and varied stories of explorers and European settlement, of success and failures, of bravery and sadness. When explorer John McDowell Stuart first attempted to cross the continent in 1860, he named a creek in the area after one of the trip's financiers, John Tennant. Only 10 years later, the overland telegraph line was completed, opening lines of communication between Adelaide, Darwin and the rest of the world. The supporting telegraph station still remains in Tennant Creek today, reminding us of the outback's harsh and humble beginnings and the magnitude of our forefathers' visions that created this great country. The storage of food was most important. The cellar allowed station employees to prolong the life of fruit and vegetables grown in their garden. The meat was either hung in a nearby shelter or cured in the smokehouse. These steps are not only deep, but so well worn from the amount of feet upon them. What stories they could tell. The telegraph station ceased operation in 1935, but for many years continued to provide accommodation for linesmen and storage for their equipment. In 1950, Con Perry acquired the buildings and surrounding land for a small beef cattle enterprise. He modified this room into a butcher shop by installing a cold store, meat rack and benches, and began supplying meat to the townsfolk of Tennant Creek. Around about 1,700 million years ago, molten magma squeezed through the ancient sandstones of the Earth's crust and cooled into a hard granite rock, the Devil's Marbles granite. Shrinkage as the granite cooled and pressures within the Earth caused right-angled patterns of cracks called joints to form. As the overlying rocks were eroded by wind and water, the granite came to be closer to the surface. Groundwater filtered down along the joints and reacted with some of the minerals in the granite to form clays. This process, called weathering, was helped by a warm, humid climate. Weathering was greatest at the corners of the blocks, where more surfaces were exposed. Eventually, the overlying rocks were eroded away and the granite was exposed to the elements. The softer, weathered granite around the edge of the blocks was washed away, leaving boulders perched on top of one another and strewn across the rock platforms. Spectacular arrangements of boulders that make up the Devil's Marbles are in fact the result of breaking down rather than building up of rocks. The marbles are remnants from a solid mass of granite, the bulk of which still lies underneath them. Geomorphologists have developed an interesting naming system for the different shapes and arrangements of the granite boulders. Slab-like boulders are called cheese rings because they resemble flattish rounds of cheese. And that's exactly what I was talking about. That's what we got taught in school. That's when education was an education, not indoctrination. This is coming into the camp area at Devil's Marbles. It's a national parks campground. You need to pay online before you arrive because there's no service out this way. You do have to suffer tourist buses, but that's the problem. Feed them, shut them up and move them out.